Appreciate you being here on Live Now from Fox. You were just starting to talk about our supply chain issues, all starting and stemming from our pandemic.
Yes, so essentially, through the different spending that the government has had, it's increased our debt ceiling. We're currently at 28.8 trillion, which is 102% of gross domestic product. But all the social service programs that we have and all the spending the government has been doing during the pandemic have increased our debt ceiling to where it is today. And of course, now Congress is going to have to act to increase that to prevent a government shutdown.
So when President Biden, he just talked about all these different ways they're trying to implement options to try to help relieve some of this stress that we're seeing. I don't know if you were able to see some of his remarks, but, some of these ports now going to be operating 24 hours a day. Some of these big businesses in our supply chain also going to be extending some of their operations. How could this help? How could it hurt in our economy?
So if the debt ceiling is not increased, then essential workers will have to continue working without receiving pay, and non-essential workers are not going to be allowed to work and they will not receive pay. It also affects government contractors. And of course, some of the people that are currently trying to help combat the pandemic right now, that will affect about 40% of the workforce for those government agencies and other government agencies, such as any spending for Social Security, people who, lower income who might receive funding for school lunches and so forth. So it has a pretty broad impact on various economic levels of individuals.
So we did see that our members of Congress were able to help raise the debt limit just slightly, but we still have another deadline looming. So what are we going to be expecting from here as they try to reach an agreement?
So, Congress is going to have to pass, an increase in that, and it has to be both, bipartisan vote. And right now, I think they're having obviously some difficulties in getting consensus on that.
To ensure this happens,
so what other ways are we seeing our supply chain being affected? What's also been playing a part? It's not just these ports that have had a backlog of, the shipments coming in, going out. What else has been kind of playing into this that's been adding on to this pile, this crisis?
Aside from the supply chain, other things that could happen, obviously, that the government could default on its debt. And as we saw in 2008, the T-bills were downgraded. There was a risk the government was not going to repay debt. And so as, the government's collecting tax revenue and revenue from multiple sources for its spending, but the spending is exceeding what is being collected in. So it has to issue more treasury bills. But as the government debt goes higher, so does the interest rate, which is, being accumulated on a daily basis. So if a government defaults, it can have a wide impact across the economy and in many different areas.
Who do you think is going to be impacted the worst throughout this crisis that we're seeing? We've been seeing a lot of rise on prices of, our groceries. Obviously, our gas prices are the highest we've seen in the last 7 years. Who's really getting hurt the most from these issues happening?
Well, it's really kind of multiple. It's partly, probably low-income individuals who rely upon the Social Security benefits and some of those social services programs. Those could be potentially delayed, which is really going to impact, those families substantially. In addition to small business owners, right now you mentioned something about the supply chain, and I talked to many different business owners right now that are having problems, getting materials and supplies, not only from international sources, but domestic, because the domestic producers are relying upon raw materials that are being shipped out. And so obviously the ports have been impacted. And if certain government workers are furloughed, well, then that's just going to slow down the supply chain, shipping, a bunch of other things that's just going to further slow down the economy.
And I'm sure that it doesn't help that some of the consumers add to this problem then by, running out and doing the bulk buying. What kind of part do the consumers have in this crisis?
That's really interesting. So if, for instance, the consumers right now, how it's going to impact them if they, if they're looking to apply for a loan, a mortgage, interest rates are definitely going to increase. And so the borrowing and the cost of doing business and the cost for many different areas of life, whether you're a business owner or non-business owner, is going to be impacted substantially. It really comes down to this, that there's a couple different ways to reduce the debt ceiling. The government can spend less money. It could raise more money, right? Or it could just increase the debt ceiling. And there's been discussions also about getting rid of the debt ceiling, which is really not a fiscally conservative approach, right? We want to have some cap on the amount of spending that's being done right now. But it does have a significant impact on the economy, no matter which way it happens. But they've got to resolve this problem. It's been a recurring issue over the years.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen it. It kind of seems like it goes through these cycles. And as you mentioned, I mean, there are so many different issues when it comes to the way we've been trying to handle it. You know, I want to touch on, again, these ports who have said that they are going to try to do these 24-hour operations. They haven't yet been able to do it. Do you think, and do we expect to see them able to reach that goal? And will that help relieve some of the pain we're seeing with these supply chain demands?
Right, and that's a tough question, right? Whether Congress is going to do the right thing and act. And you remember back in 2013 and 2018, we did have a government shutdown, and how that impacted the economy was substantial. So we're hoping that Congress will act to increase the debt ceiling, and we're not going to have a further slowdown of the economy. But any type of shutdown is definitely going to impact supply chain and strain it even more. And there's been discussions that, you know, some retailers may not even be able to get product into the store in time for Christmas. So just imagine all the impact on the retail environment and how that's going to impact all of the employees that they support and all of the other businesses that support the retailers. It's going to have a pretty wide impact on the economy.
Yeah, I mean, we've been getting those warnings that, you know, the holiday shopping isn't going to be what we have seen in the past few years. You're going to need to do things early. You're going to expect things to be a lot more delayed this year. And as you're pointing out, too, it could even affect some people's incomes when it comes to working at some of these places that might not be able to operate in full capacity.
Right. So imagine a retail store such as Walmart. If Walmart is not able to stock their shelves with enough product for Christmas, they may not need as many employees, and that's going to cut down on the staff. And of course, it's going to impact families substantially. Those families might have to apply for unemployment and a lot of other benefits. So it's really going to affect, middle to lower class families. It's going to have the hardest impact on those. Whether I'm able to go into a store and get a Christmas gift for my child, it doesn't impact me as much as it's going to be the retailers and the employees. Uber drivers, it's going to impact maybe potentially FedEx, the shippers, all those supporting companies that hire employees that are needed to get the product in the store, or just, for Christmas time and holidays.
It's just a big snowball effect. One little thing can trickle down and then make another thing happen and another yet. So once again, just kind of reiterate for all of our viewers watching, what does it come down to? It comes down to our lawmakers, doesn't it?
It does. And in the end of the day, it does, because the lawmakers are going to have to increase the debt ceiling. And without that, look, the debt ceiling is basically like this. Imagine having a credit card and you've already reached your limit. And you're going to reach your limit next week. And the only option you have is either to get another credit card, which is basically to increase the debt ceiling, or to find a way to pay that debt down. And we're currently at a fairly high amount of 102% of GDP. So it's fairly high historically. And in the past, I think during the Clinton era, it got down to 30% of GDP. But as we increase that, if we keep on increasing the debt ceiling, and now it's gone above the GDP, it's going to increase inflation and the value of the dollar.
Yeah, just so many things that we do need to be considering, especially when it comes to our lawmakers making these important decisions. Anything, John, you think you wanted to point out here tonight on this issue that we haven't talked about yet here today?
Well, it seems to be more politicized, this issue, and it's unfortunate that, the lawmakers can't cooperate. But overall, I think now that we're in a pandemic and families need, income, and some of them are forced to work from home. So I think the biggest impact that we can at least stress right now is that Congress should act appropriately just to keep people employed, especially federal employees who devote their careers to the government and are not going to be paid. The non-essential workers are not even allowed to work and will not be paid. The essential workers are going to have to work and not get paid. Now, how are they going to pay their mortgages, their car payments? So there's going to potentially be a ripple effect in the economy of creditors not getting paid, credit card companies, mortgage companies. And right now, there was a moratorium on mortgage defaults, right, from the banks being able to foreclose on a home, and companies that are renting and not paying their rent because they can't afford to. So this is going to further impact that, because if stores are going to have to close and workers are not being hired, it's going to further strain people's financials and potentially the creditors who are owed the money.
Well, we can verify.
Right, just like you said, just so many different ripple effects, a lot for us to keep an eye on here with these moving pieces. And we do appreciate you helping kind of break it all down, making sure that we know what it all comes down to is those congressmen and women who are still at work with those debates. So we do appreciate, again, John Milkowski for joining us here on Live Now from Fox, helping kind of give us some explanation behind all of these issues we're seeing with our supply chain.
Great, thank you so much.